Welcome to the Wholehearted Eating Podcast, where non-diet nutrition, weight-inclusive care, and integrative health collide. We're your hosts, Dana and Cristina Hoyt, licensed integrative clinical nutritionists and body image coaches.
And we believe you deserve to have a joyful relationship with food in your body, even if you have a chronic health condition or symptoms that just won't quit. On this show, together and with our guests, we're bringing the real talk, no BS vibe with tangible tools to help you pursue health and wellness without obsession or restriction.
Remember our disclaimer, this podcast is meant for general information purposes only and should not be taken as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Wholehearted Eating Podcast. Today we have kind of an informal catch up with us type of episode with me and Cristina. So grab some coffee, grab some tea, whatever you want, and enjoy. So we're going to be sharing what's been going on with us, how our recent plans for the podcast got totally derailed and why, and then also our plans and upcoming exciting guests and topics for the spring and summer season of the podcast. Cristina is also sharing some brief thoughts on the American Academy of Pediatrics' new completely bogus weight loss recommendations for children as young as 2 years old. So sit back, relax, enjoy this informal episode, and then we will be back to you next week with our 250th episode, which will be one in our series of Help, I'm Failing at Intuitive Eating. Okay, but so it's been a while, friends. So we were talking. It's currently...
We've been in COVID
Oh my
land.
God. It's currently Friday, February 24th when we're recording this episode. It'll come out in a couple of days. But so we were talking and we were like, oh my God, we haven't recorded an episode together where it was just us since literally the beginning of January. So we wanted to give you all some updates on what's been going on. Some good, some not so great. Because we had plans for January for them to all be duo episodes is what we call them, of just us two talking about relationship with food, pitfalls of intuitive eating, body image, all of this stuff. And then shit hit the fan, basically. So we just wanted to give you all some updates on what's been going on, things that we're excited for, things are coming up on the podcast. This is typically some of the kinds of bonus episodes that you would get on our Patreon. But
you also get some rage episodes in there too.
Oh yeah, many rage episodes and deep dives with our guests and other stuff. But we figured, you know what, why not give the people what they've been asking for? Where are you guys? What are you doing? So we wanted to give you a little bit of a bonus episode. And if you want more like this, then there will be more on Patreon as well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's my fault why January didn't.
Okay, it's not your fault.
Didn't happen. Well, no, it's my family's petri dish that caused it's the misfortune that happened that caused January to turn into such a cluster of a situation, because we had flu and COVID and potentially RSV come to the party in January. And it was just like one thing after the other in our home. And we are just now, end of February, coming out of all the various illnesses. Like everyone's fine, thank goodness, but there were a couple hospital visits, but nothing like, thankfully nothing major. Like I know a lot of family friends and stuff like that, their kids have been like on oxygen and stuff like that. That is not the case here, which I'm very thankful for. But there were a couple visits that were like, disappointing. We didn't want to be doing that. And just a lot of like in and out of childcare. And I know a lot of parents are feeling that too. And a lot of people are just feeling it. Everyone's been kind of sick. I feel like everyone's been sick since October. It feels like. But January and February we were hit really hard. And then Dana got to do something fun that turned not so fun at the very end.
Yeah. So
I've just been living in a petri dish. That's what I've been doing.
I unknowingly was also living in a petri dish. So I don't think I had talked about this on the podcast yet. If you are a subscriber to our newsletter, you would have known this. But so I went to Utah for 2 weeks with my immediate family and some of my extended family to ski. So it was actually really cool because the first week, all of the kids, so the 25 to 35s in the house, were all working from home from Utah. The first week, seeing clients, we're all in different fields and everything like that. And then the second week we were skiing, which was fantastic. And so Utah's on mountain time, which is 2 hours behind East Coast time. So what was fantastic about that was if I, or, any of my cousins or my brother, my sister-in-law, if any of us finished early East Coast time, it'd be like, well, slopes are still open for 2 hours, so we're just going to go ski for the afternoon. So that was really, really cool. So my mom was actually out there for a month, and my dad was back and forth because he was very busy with work, so he couldn't stay the whole time and work from there. But so my mom and my aunt were both out there for the entire month, and they had been on and off sick, but testing negative for COVID. And then some of their friends went out there and they were sick, and it was a whole thing. So we were all hoping by the time we got there that the sicknesses would be gone. So first week, everything is great. We're living, land of unicorns, rainbows, everything. Oh my God, it's so nice. We can work and we can ski. My family always has a fantastic time when we're all together. And we had all just been together for my brother and my sister-in-law's wedding in October. So it was kind of like a repeat, part 2 of that, which was so fun. And then the Sunday before the Super Bowl, whatever date that was, my mom started feeling sick again, and she tested negative for COVID. And then she was like, oh, I don't know what this is. I'll just, stay away from everybody and whatever. A couple days later, she then is feeling awful. So she goes to urgent care and she tests positive for COVID. And we're all like, well, hell, there's 10, 12 of us living in this house together. And we're like, there's no way that we are not all going to get it. So all of us have been boosted, all the things. So we all test that day. We're all negative. Everyone's feeling fine. We're all just being very careful, monitoring things. My mom is quarantining, whatever. So then the day of the Super Bowl, and I'm going to put my mom on blast here. She takes off her mask too soon. 2 days later, I test positive for COVID. This is the first time that I have had it in all of the 3 years that this craziness has been going on.
Same.
And that... So it was awful. For me, it felt more like the flu, but I was like, I'm going to test because there has been COVID in this house. And it came up so quick. I have never seen a positive result so quickly on a rapid test. And I was like, whoa, immediate quarantine. This is fun. So yeah, that was not great. It was the actual quarantine period wasn't that bad for me. I didn't have to go to the hospital. I just had to, isolate when I got home. That was not fun, but it was more kind of like the flu to me. I had the chills, I was going to say the hots. I had the sweats, I had the hots for myself. But just a little bit of a stuffy nose, a little bit of cough. It really wasn't that bad. But I will tell you, and it's been almost a week since I've been out of the isolation period, the absolute crushing fatigue is something that is new for me. You all know, I've been burnt out in bed. I've had adrenal fatigue out the wazoo, all the things. I have never been this tired before. Yesterday, for example, I slept 9.5 hours. I took 2 naps yesterday in between clients, and I still went to bed at 9 p.m. It is just so bad. And when Christina and I were catching up the other day, when we were planning, what are we going to do for this bonus episode? The other thing I was talking about, the double-edged sword for me is I've had no appetite. I have my taste and smell, thank God, but I have no appetite. I have food aversions, and I'm borderline nauseous all the time. And it's just kind of starting to get over that. I'm able to eat regularly again, and I just feel like I'm freaking withering away. I went to the gym the other day just to talk to my coach. I'm not crazy, you guys. And he was like, what happened to you? He was like, I know what you do in terms of the work that you do, so I don't want to be insensitive, and I don't want to say an unsolicited comment about your body, but you really do look sick and you're kind of withering away. And I was like, I know, it's so bad. And so it's just been really rough on the other side, and I really hope that things are going to start to get better soon because it's been rough. So,
Oh my God. It's been insane. I had like a double ear infection after COVID with the flu mixed in. It was bonkers. Like it's just been insane. By the way, I just want to point out, if anyone heard, I giggled while Dana was talking about how there was COVID in this house, and I just want people
there's
to
some
know
hoes
that
in this
when
house.
she Oh my God, right when you said COVID in this house, all I heard in my head was there's some hoes in this house. There's some and that's why I
That was
started
my intention.
laughing.
Yep.
And it was so like I was like, oh God, people are gonna think that I think COVID is funny, and I'm not one of those people. So
Nope.
oh my God. But yeah, no, it's been insane. I mean, I'm glad you're feeling better and that maybe you're starting to come out of this a little bit, but I will say that it took me a little while to start feeling fully normal. I had a lot of brain fog post COVID, post all of the things in January, and I'm starting to like finally feel better. And same with my kids. Like I think this morning I was almost scared to say anything, but I was kind of like, I think we have Elodie's asthma under control. I think we have Noah didn't wake up with crusty eyes or crusty nose today. And I'm kind of like, is it happening? Are we on the precipice of health for an extended period of time? I don't
What's
know.
that
Fingers
like?
crossed.
It's been months.
I want to knock on wood, but for all the other parents out there in it, oh, I feel you. It's been
Yep.
brutal. But we've had some really interesting, even though we haven't recorded together, we've had some interesting stuff going on as far as what we'd like to do with the podcast and
Yep.
some episodes that are coming up. One thing that I've been doing a lot of research on that's relevant for anybody who's disordered eating or have an eating disorder is the rise of Ozempic and Wegovy. And so we are going to talk about that at some point on the podcast as well. That's something that I've been diving a lot into the research around GLP-1s, specifically and thinking about it a lot. And so we are going to talk about that at some point. So stay tuned for our thoughts on it at some point soon and all the mechanisms at play.
Yes. And because this is technically a bonus episode, right? Next week will be our 250th episode of the podcast in general, which is very exciting.
Wild.
And and Christina, you're coming up on 2 whole years on the podcast as well.
Oh my God, in
Yeah.
April, right? That feels bonkers. Like that, you know what I mean? Like for everyone here, I've this is gonna sound bad, but I've never listened to any of in the 2 year
You're so embarrassing to me.
I just really hate the sound of my own voice. And so I record it, I hear it, and then I'm like, I can't go back and listen to it. For anyone else with anxiety, you might agree with me or understand.
I mean,
But I love the
the only
content.
reason I got used to
I
hearing,
love being on
yeah,
it.
the only reason I got used to hearing my own voice was because I do all the editing. So it's like, you have
I
no
know.
choice.
Thank God. If the editing was left up to me, we would never have an episode go live.
Fun fact that
Dana's nodding her
probably
head.
nobody knows about is you had recorded episodes of a podcast before you ever joined Wholehearted Eating.
I know. Yeah, and I think it was going to be called Eat to Thrive was was the name of the podcast show, the podcast. That was going to be the name of it. Eat to Thrive. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that is a fun fact. And another fun fact was I recorded those before Dana ever recorded her first episode of Real Talk with
Yep.
Dana.
Way
Yeah,
before
but I know, way back in the day. That's wild.
Yeah. But speaking
Bonkers.
of podcast episodes and topics and things, so to give you all a little bit of a preview of what is coming up. So for our 250th episode. So over the last year, I think, we've kind of been doing informally this series of like help I'm failing at intuitive eating. And we've had 2 or 3 episodes specifically on that topic so far. And we wanted to do another one in that series, which is what we're calling I can't because, which is a lot of different, I don't want to say, they're not excuses. They're more like objections of like, hold on, this is not going to work for me because of fill in the blank. And we've had a lot of ideas around this, and we also have heard from a lot of different clients of why them trying intuitive eating on their own has not worked for them in the past. So we hear you. You know, we do this podcast for all of you. This is not for us. Although we do love talking for hours on end, which you can probably tell by our podcast. But so we're going to be talking about that next week. And actually, what's really funny is 2 episodes that we had planned for February before all of the craziness of getting sick was we had wanted to talk about dry January and alcohol culture, because I think the rise of the kind of sober curious movement has really been kicking up over the last year, I would say. Like that book is at least 5 years old, I think, maybe more recent than yet that. I think it's by Ruby Warrington. But what's really interesting is I had even seen ads earlier this year and in December from places like Peloton and other gyms and whatever, and being like, oh, dry January, or like somebody, I think one of them said like, why do dry January when you can just like work out every day basically? And I was like, what the heck is going on? So it's like there are intentions around wanting to explore your relationship with alcohol, but of course now it's been exploited by diet and fitness culture. Be like, oh, this is just, you don't have to change anything that you're eating, improve your relationship with food. You just can't drink for a month, right? And so we do want to talk about that at some point, though I don't know when we will, because it's not January anymore, so we'll see. But that's definitely something we want to talk about soon.
We definitely are going to, but I also think like maybe it goes beyond just dry January, and maybe in some ways it's also like kind of like the after effects of dry January and what we're gonna do with it, and whether or not it's
binge drinking.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. But I think that could be really interesting, and I think it is still applicable. I mean, if you guys don't think it is, by all means, let us know and say, Christina, no, you've missed the boat. And then we'll just do it next year.
Or we could do it for summer. We try to have, I was going to say topical podcast topics, but like seasonal, based on what is going on. If there's new research, we dissect it, that kind of stuff. But I definitely want to have that conversation because I have read that book, Sober Curious, back in I think when I was going to London, actually. And let me tell you, I was so disappointed by that book. It was so boring. And I was like, how can a book that has basically like sparked this whole movement of, being sober curious, of like, what is my relationship with alcohol? And I will go into it later, but I could rant about that shit for a long time. But another thing that we had wanted to talk about, because we're always talking about this, is burnout, and the effect of kind of New Year's resolutions or things like dry January or elimination diets or all these things on burnout, and how you can feel extremely burnt out from those kinds of things, which, just adds to your general burnout of existing as a human in this world.
I know. Yeah. I mean, as if life wasn't hard enough, let's add these other layers on top of it. I'm really excited because for families out there, although I really do think it's applicable to anybody, but I got to talk to Virginia Soul-Smith about her new book that's coming out called Fat Talk. Super excited. By the way, everybody, it's an awesome book. It's coming out in April.
Christina read a book,
Stay tuned.
And she posted about it on Instagram.
You guys.
She texted me. She was like, I read a book. And I was like, whoa.
And then I got another book. And another book. And now it's a chain reaction. And part of it, I blame the podcast because these are people that we're going to be interviewing and they're coming. And I don't want to sound like a doofus and not know anything about the book that I'm interviewing them on, or being able to tell you guys like, oh yeah, I actually really like this book. But so I have to read it. But no, so it is going to be, Virginia is recording it for, she's going to be reading it. I think it's going to be Audible as well, or like audio as well, an audiobook as well. So that is available, but I have to tell you, this book is awesome. And I feel like everyone needs to read it if they are a parent, but also for like the inner child in you. I think feel like it would be so validating to read this and be like, you know what? Yes, this was messed up. And I'm really glad someone's trying to change it for the future and for me internally. And I think you guys will all like, I'm really excited to share that episode with everybody because she's like an incredibly amazing
Yeah.
person
And then
doing awesome
speaking of
work.
other books, not fiction books, right? We're not going down that rabbit hole again, although I could definitely go there. We do have a journalist for the Washington Post that's going to be coming on as well to talk about emotional eating and psychology and stuff, which was one of the people that sent us their book. So I have not read it yet, but I'm gonna get to it. I'm excited to do that one as well. And then we want to do more episodes on ADHD. We've heard from a lot of you that would be really helpful. So, we're always open to suggestions for guest specific topics, larger topics. We call it like, the macro 10,000 foot view, which is Christina. And then I am all of the little details that gets into it. So whatever you all want to hear about, we would love to hear it from you. You can always, easiest way to get in contact with us is to email us or DM us on Instagram. But if you're one of our patrons, then it's very easy to send us a message as well. So,
Yeah. I was just thinking about Modern Family.
I
Do you ever
used
watch
to,
that
yeah.
show? It's like Mitch and Cam. Mitch and Cam, where Cam is like, dream big. And then Mitch is like, winnow down. And then dream big. And then winnow down. I'm like, that's us. I'm Cam, dreaming big. And then you're like, well, let's get down to the
Yes.
nitty gritty. And I'm like, the nitty gritty sucks.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh.
Oh,
The other thing that I wanted to plug a little bit, because we haven't really talked about this too much yet, at least on like the public episodes, is and you guys would have no idea about this unless you are on the Patreon, is on a lot of our interview episodes, we actually keep the guests on for a little bit longer than like the main show and ask them very actionable tips about, what you, the listeners, can do to manage whatever health condition that you're, dealing with or that the guest has been talking about, or, different tangible tools that you can use. So those are kind of like mini bonus deep dive episodes that you only get on the Patreon. So for example, if you want to hear Brittany Roman, who we had on last week, and why we are literally twins. And then she gives a bunch of,
my God.
deep dive things about IBD. You can hear that on the Patreon. You can hear more about body image. We have episodes all the way back to when we interviewed Hillary about body trust and their book and, deep dives on that. So that's just, one of the things that you'll get on the Patreon as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of really exciting stuff coming down the way. And if we can not get sick, we'll be able
Do
to
all the
execute all,
things.
all of these
Yep.
ideas.
Yep.
And that's the hope. And so far, I'm knocking on wood, but it feels like we're kind of
It's
there.
been 2 days.
It's been 2 days. I know. I know. It's been two
Oh,
days.
man.
Just wait.
But we have grand plans. We have a lot of great fun stuff coming. And we do want to do kind of unscripted, behind the scenes. I don't even know what I want to call them, but they're definitely going to be bonus episodes. Those will be behind a paywall. So that'll be on the Patreon. We have things to talk about.
I know things that we really want to share. And as we've said before, like I don't know if we've actually really said it out loud before, but there are some things that we don't feel like needs to be public, like openly, openly public, but a lot of things that we feel like we want to talk about. And that's why we're having in like this private community that if you want to come on that journey, you can. If you don't and just want to hear the stuff that we're talking about in the podcast,
It's
cool.
going to continue to happen. We're not going away.
Yeah, we're not going away. But some of these types of conversations were like, well, this isn't really for public consumption, but it is something that we're talking about and thinking about. And maybe some of you guys are a little interested on some of those topics that are coming up for us, things that are coming up and that we're seeing and thinking about a lot and observing.
Yes.
in the field.
So we would love, well, first of all, we hope you are all well and not sick. And if you are, we wish you the speediest
Seriously.
of recoveries. And then let us know what you would like to see on the podcast this spring, in the summer. Like we are planning out all the way to the fall right now. So we have things coming up, because if there's anything I love, it's a plan. Christina knows this.
Thank God. Because I like plans too, but Dana's really good at making us map it all out. I get really excited about it, and then Dana actually writes it all down, which is really helpful.
That's usually the flow of our conversations. Christina's just talking about these amazing, like, grand ideas and stuff. I'm like, hold on, I got to put it in our Notion.
We gotta write all this down.
Oh, man.
And yet, I'm not good at doing that. I just think about them. But I have been writing sticky notes. They're kind of everywhere. Like, if I'm looking at my desk right now, I have all these sticky notes with various ideas.
Oh, man. Well, we
need to tell Dana.
We hope you all have enjoyed this very unscripted episode. And
seriously,
we will talk to you next week with some juicy details on I can't do intuitive eating because, well, many reasons, really, that we agree with a lot of them, and that's why we don't do intuitive eating in the first place. Wow. Well,
formal thoughts to be shared in the future, but everybody, what we're talking about right now is the American Academy of Pediatricians, and I'm the new guidelines, and as a parent, I'm just completely disgusted by them. To be honest, I feel like I need more thoughts. I need, there's so much to say about it, because they're now encouraging weight loss intensive therapies for as young as 2.
Right, which is
disgusting. And bariatric surgery for 13-year-olds.
I did not see that.
Formal thoughts pending. I have thoughts and I oppose them. Like, I'm adamantly not into it.
I have many thoughts. Fuck you.
Yeah, like, it's like, as a parent, I'm like completely disgusted that our medical professionals would even recommend such disgusting things when there's evidence that shows how harmful it is. And all I have to say is I'm definitely going to be reaching out to my pediatrician to find out what the hell their thoughts are on it, because
need to make sure that's a safe space for your kiddos.
Well, I think it is, because our pediatrician hired a health at every size nutritionist, and it was very important to them to hire a health at every size nutritionist. So it made me feel like a safer place. And I remember emailing them and saying, hey, that's awesome. I'm really happy to see that you hired this individual. I hope it was as well thought as I think. And our pediatrician wrote back to me and said, yes, it was very important to me that we found someone who was weight inclusive. And so good. I do feel like we're lucky in that way, but I'm disgusted by it. Maybe this is all we need to share about it. Formal thoughts to be shared in the future, but everybody, what we're talking about right now is the American Academy of Pediatricians, and I'm the new guidelines, and as a parent, I'm just completely disgusted by them.
Mic drop.
End of story. And I don't think that's to a shock to anybody who knows our podcast, that I would listen to that and be like, hell to the no. Are we going to let this happen?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll fight for all of our kids.
Me too, even though I don't have any.
Aunt Dana's got your back, Elodie.
Exactly.
And Noah.
and all of your kids. I have
and all of the kids. Yeah.
Why did I just end it like that? What is wrong with me?
Because we're weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey friends, it's Dana, and thanks so much for listening to the Wholehearted Eating Podcast today. Find us on social media at Wholehearted Eating Pod on Instagram and at wholeheartedeating.com for more information about working with Dana and Cristina for one-on-one nutrition counseling. If you love the show, we would love you forever if you'd share an episode with your family and friends, or tag us on social media, or leave a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts to help more people find the show. Check out patreon.com/wholeheartedeating to help support the show and get access to ad-free episodes, bonus episodes with us and our guests, episode discussions, new resources we're creating for Patreon, and so much more. If you have questions for us, feedback on the show, potential topics or guests you'd love to have on, shoot us an email at hello@wholeheartedeating.com, and we'll see you next week.